are there. See, that's what it takes to cultivate a resilient spirit. It's this capacity to surrender, not give up.
Right.
Total difference. To accept, to allow, to honor, to recognize the activity of God expressing through whatever it is, menopause or whatever is going on for you, that inspires these lyrics, right? These are, I have heard this song many times, and I can tell you that I often hear those lyrics, the chorus that we all sang together in my head, that I surrender to the light, because it's such a powerful way to experience things that go on. So this idea of a resilient spirit, it's all about surrendering to the light, not to the whatever the dark stuff is that's getting in the way, but to surrender to the highest energy of the experience, which is the divine experience that's moving through it, by allowing and accepting the activity of God to inform our journey. I really love that song. Thank you for singing that. It's all about remembering the truth of who we are. Yes. So I chose this image behind me, these stained glass windows. This is a building at night with the stained glass windows shining forth out into the night. And I chose this because in working with the book of The Gifts of Imperfection, one of the quotes at the tail end of the chapter that we're working with today, Cultivating a Resilient Spirit, Letting Go of Numbing and Powerlessness as a journey to living a wholehearted life, has a quote about this idea of surrendering to the light. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and let me tell you what that quote is. She says, "People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their beauty is revealed only if there is light from within." Only if we're surrendered and the light is coming forth from within, not from without. That's what the resilient spirit's about. Allowing remembering who we are and allowing that to sparkle and shine through whatever the stuff of life is. I know every one of us has stuff of life. I got so much stuff of life going on, I'll tell you the truth. Yesterday I was getting my fingernails done. Some lady came in 45 minutes after I went into the manicure place and said, "Does anyone own a white Cadillac?" I said, "I do." She says, "It's running in the parking lot." 45 minutes, my car was sitting in the parking lot running on. See, when we're not paying attention, when we're not present, when we're distracted, we could lose our car. So we have to be willing, no matter what's going on for you, and that's just a minor part of what's going on in my life, I gotta tell you. So when these things go on, we've got to be able to meet whatever's going on, to meet whatever that is, and to overcome it from a spiritual perspective. You know, most of what happens around my life is I'm out of control as far as being able to change things. Other people, situations, the economy, whatever. I can't change a lot. But what I can do is meet whatever that is with my inner sparkle, my inner shine, and let that be part of my walk in the world, to shine and thrive. Not to just survive, but to allow this incredible energy of light, surrender to the light within, and let that be the thing. But the challenge is, you see, it's not easy to reawaken that sparkle, that beauty from within, that place where our resilient spirit lives. It's not always easy. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge to remember the truth of who we are, to remember what that inner spark even feels like. If you are depressed, if you're feeling overcome, if you're feeling paralyzed, if you're spending your time in bed with the covers over your head, sometimes it gets very difficult to remember, what does that feel like? What does that radiant energy feel like? Because there's so much going on that gets in the way, you see. That vibrancy and aliveness is what Joseph Campbell told us we should all be doing. We should be following our bliss. Well, I got to tell you something. Sometimes I have trouble finding my bliss. And I know that's the truth, and that's not a judgment, it's not a criticism, it is a truth. And so the idea for us here is to recognize and let go of all the stuff that gets in the way. And part of it is, I love what Deepak Chopra says about this in his book, Why is God Laughing? He says, when we're out of alignment, we know it. When our connection with the energy of the divine is not tight, when we're not really living in alignment with our highest, most sparkly selves, our most vibrant, beautiful, radiant, lit selves, guess what? We know it, we feel it, we're flat. We're lifeless. We don't have any joy. We are going through the motions. We're getting through the day. You know what I mean? We've been there. We've all been there. But the idea here is to let life be life on life's terms and to show up anyway with our sparkle. Nevertheless, no matter what. It's about willingness. Willingness. I like the idea that if we're willing to give it a try, we're halfway there. We're more than halfway there. And it depends on how conscious and present we are in the moment. Obviously, yesterday when I was leaving my car running in the parking lot with no one in it, I wasn't real conscious. That's a metaphor for how we are living our life experience. How many times have you had an experience where your car is running and you're not there? We're not conscious, we're not attentive, we're not paying attention. And so the whole idea is, how do we cultivate the capacity to, yes, show up in whatever's going on in our life, we all got stuff, and have this resilience that allows us to, as Eckhart Tolle would say, to see the life energy, the sparkle, the vibrancy beneath whatever that life situation is. That's what we're talking about. And the problem is, sometimes life hurts so much, we've been so wounded, like Debbie had her 4 knee surgeries and all these things happened to her, just she couldn't show up. Sometimes life hurts so much, we're so wounded, we're so fragile, we're so tired. Anybody in this room tired? We're so tired, we get so used to the way we feel. Sad, mad, blue, depressed, whatever. We get so tired, or we get so caught up in that stuff, and we're not noticing. I'm going to tell you, usually when we're stuck in that stuff, we're not noticing, we're not paying attention, because we want to avoid what our author calls the sharp points of life. The things that get our attention, the points, the thorns, the pricks. We want to avoid that stuff, you see. We just want to make it go away. Now, this is a perfect talk for me. After 27 years of sobriety, I have a history of numbing. I'm also a 9 on the Enneagram, for anybody who knows about the Enneagram work. And I have a tendency to numb. That's what my unhealthy aspect is. I numb. And so I, in particular, have to be very careful with this concept of wanting to numb so I don't have to feel the sharp points of life. It has to be a practice for me. Some of you don't have quite the same challenge. You're not, an addict or an alcoholic. But you may be a food person. You never know. You may love chocolate. And so when we're feeling especially powerless, when we're feeling especially vulnerable, we're feeling lost, we're confused, we're disconnected, kind of like that POW. We've got that POW experience going on where we feel like we're a prisoner in our own life experience. We have a tendency, I love the language that our author uses, she says we have a tendency to numb, to try to not feel what's going on. And she says we have taking the edge off behaviors. Taking the edge off behaviors. I'm pretty clear what mine are. Pretty clear. But I love what she says. She says, over time, I basically became a take the edge off-aholic. For me, it wasn't just the dance halls, cold beer, and Marlboro Lights. She's in recovery, by the way. She says, it wasn't just all of that that got out of hand. It was the banana bread, chips and queso, email, work, staying busy, incessant worrying, planning, perfectionism, and anything else that could dull those agonizing and anxiety-fueled feelings of vulnerability. Okay? Anybody relate to any of those things? Unfortunately, I relate to most of them. They didn't mention cafe lattes in there. So this idea, it's real tricky. We got to recognize, we say, wait a minute, what's getting in the way? Wait a minute, how am I trying to take the sharp points out of my life experience? Wait a minute, how am I trying to, maneuver my way through life? What am I doing? Now maybe in this 27 years later, I am not picking up a bottle of Stolichnaya right out of the fridge and drinking it. Yeah. But I'm sure that I have other things that I do. I know I do. And I've got to be aware of that, because I love her terminology. She says, we spend our life trying to outrun our vulnerabilities in one way or another. We cling to our old habits, our old ways of reacting to our experiences, and we start narrowing life down to protect against vulnerability. Have you noticed how that works in your own life? How do you narrow your life to keep yourself safe? And I was thinking, there's a reason they call it comfort food.
Yeah.
There's a reason they call it happy hour. Well, it takes the edge off. But this is, if you don't take anything else away from what I'm attempting to transmit today, this is what I'd like you to remember. We cannot selectively numb our emotions. When we numb the painful ones, we also numb the positive ones. When we numb the dark ones, we're numbing the light ones, which means we're not sparkling from inside out. That is so important. We cannot selectively numb. That's how we get flat. That's how we just go through life in that gray zone. That's how it happens. And really, it's all about remembering our inner divinity, that divinity that we've all got. So what do? Well, you invite life on life's terms. You just meet it head on. You recognize those places where you're stuck, where you're numb to life, where you feel powerless, where you have forgotten your connection to that which is greater. Those of us in 12-step know we've got to recognize that power that can restore our sanity. We've got to do that. We've got to remember that inner spark that we have, that radiance, that light. We've got to remember we have permission to express our divinity, that light from within, that connection with the, whatever you call that, God, source, whatever. We have to trust, and I love the invitation at the end of this video that we saw on Bob Shoemaker. We have to trust that, we're all in this together. We're all connected. We are all connected, and there is something that is greater than all of us that has a capacity to restore us to our sanity and to bring us into that place of being able to be resilient in whatever is going on. How do we do it? Well, we got to learn how to bounce back when stuff happens. Now, in my case, I just sent some lady out in the parking lot with my keys to turn my car off. But we got to learn how to bounce back from hardships like Bob Shoemaker did. I thought that was an incredible, incredible way to be with a 3-year situation. And you know what that did? It set a field of hope going. He set realistic goals. He figured out how to do it, he and the other prisoners, and they trusted that they could do it, that they could survive with this tap code. They trusted, and I don't think there's any mistake that his example was GBU. That was important to them, to cultivate a resilient spirit, to remember, God bless you. God bless you. Remember the divine is working in all of this. We're not forgotten ones. We are all in this thing together, and we are being somehow weirdly supported by the divine energy. So here's the practical steps. And this comes from Joan Boroshenko. She says these are the practical steps. First, we got to accept reality. You got to accept reality. You got to face the difficult situations head on. You got to face it. You got to recognize it. Do what it takes. Do whatever, whatever is yours to do. And this is the antidote to feeling powerless. You've got to face it. You got to take action. Then you have to have a basic trust that life is meaningful. that there's something about this human experience that has meaning. Find a positive meaning, even in a traumatic, horrible prisoner experience, whatever's going on for you. Most of us will never experience what Bob Shoemaker went through, but this resilient spirit that he demonstrated, you know, even within that, to find meaning, to be able to connect, to learn to speak French, to learn to play the piano. Amazing. To improvise. Maybe life's not showing up exactly the way you want it to show up. Find a way to improvise, to be creative, to be innovative, to respond to life on life's terms. And this is the antidote to feeling like a victim. We take our power back. You know, the old, if you got lemons, make lemonade. So I like the invitation at the end of the video. Don't ever forget, we're all in this together. We need each other. We all need a tap code to get through tough times. It takes all of us together, and remember, GBU, God bless you.